The senator from Fauquier, Senator Vogel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just like to, in particular, associate my remarks with the senator from Northern Fairfax. And as many of my colleagues here, Loudoun, Fairfax, Fauquier, and Loudoun, which I represent, have been ravaged by Lyme disease. And if you do not have it in your communities, you can't imagine the impact that it has. And I understand, or at least it was my impression, having spoken to representatives of the physician community, that their concern had been largely ameliorated by the floor amendment that was introduced. And certainly I understand that it is important to not have the perfect be the enemy of the good, but there is extraordinary good here in merely communicating somehow. And I would support anything that we could do, public service announcements, education in schools, some effort where people could be at a minimum put on notice, because many, many people have been treated for chronic fatigue syndrome. They've been treated for many, many other things when they were actually dying as a result of complications from Lyme disease. When my son was 6, he was diagnosed with Lyme. He had the bullseye. I tested positive for Lyme. We've all done the antibiotics. All of my dogs have had Lyme disease. One of them almost died. I mean, it is unbelievable. In just communities where I live, every single household has someone who has Lyme disease, and you never have to notice the tick. You never have to know that you've had a bite. Most people have never even seen the tick on their body. And so it is unfortunate that this public health issue has become such an extraordinary political issue in the communities that we represent, but it really has. And I am at a loss for anything to know, to do, or to communicate with my constituents. And in fact, I have had so many people communicate with me as a result of Senator Black introducing his legislation. And in fact, I've had many people communicate with me and urge us not to do anything to water down this sort of communication component of his legislation, and some were not in favor, in fact, of his floor amendment. But I would just urge the body to consider that there is an enormous amount of good that can come from a communication with the public in general about what the risks of Lyme disease include, and that it can, in fact, be fatal. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Senator from Chesterfield, Senator Martin.
President, speaking